My favorite one, favorite one is, well, the United States can't do that because it's the Federal Reserve that does the money printing. Oh my God, early gird! The Federal Reserve came to the United States and took over. The Jews own the United States. All these other worthless, idiotic conspiracies, right? So in 1919, after many years of weirdness, like a foreign exchange in the United States, okay, lots of failures, lots of bank runs, lots of very, very, very crazy, unstable economic times. Things were flying up and down, spiking all over the place. Craziness, okay? And what do you got? You got to find a way to standardize the medium of exchange to create a smooth flow of commerce. You're not going to walk around with loads of chunks of, gold bullion hanging on your neck so you can go buy, a chunk of dial to take a bath with. I mean, you're sitting there, that's the stupidest thing. You're not going to carry a whole bunch of chicken around your neck to barter with them. You're not going to carry, a whole bunch of bricks in your back of your wheelbarrow to trade to get some lambs. I mean, that's not the way it works. Okay? It's not the way it works. So ultimately, they decided they would standardize this. Instead of Billy Bucks and Joey Bucks and Jose Bucks and Juan Bucks, they decided to create one medium of exchange, US dollar. And they created a central bank to clear payments between all these different banks. There was tons of different banks, and they didn't all treat with each other. Some days they said, well, I don't like that bank. I'm only going to give you 1/5 of its value because I don't really trust that bank. That bank doesn't have a really good rating, so I'm not going to value their currency, right? So what did they do? They went ahead and standardized it. All right, so in 1913, they created a central bank, just like the rest of the world has central banks.
I want to give you an opportunity. We've got one of those end the fetters out there who salivates over the private bank nonsense and all the other gibberish that comes with the whole conspiracy-minded thing. You want to take a shot for the fences real quick? I'll tee it up here, put it up on the tee and let you take a swing.
Go ahead.
Well, the guy's basically saying the government no longer makes the money, private Federal Reserve does.
Well, I don't know of too many private companies that are required to turn over all of its profits to the Treasury, nor do I know of too many private companies where the directors of that company are nominated by the president and confirmed by Congress. So it's a stretch to say that it's private. Now, the member banks of the Federal Reserve, yes, those are, private, publicly owned companies, private companies. You got the JP Morgans, the Citibanks. But the Federal Reserve itself, all right? I'm not talking about the way it's structured. The Federal Reserve itself, its direction, that means its top people, the chairman and the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, that sets policy. Those are people who are appointed by Congress, and the Fed itself was a creation. The Federal Reserve Act in 1913 was a creation of the government, and it can be eliminated in the same way that it was created. I hear this all the time about how it's private. There are many things the Fed does which I'm not necessarily in agreement with. But it is not a private organization, and that's just a fact. That's just a fact.
I love it. I mean, for me, the Federal Reserve is merely a scorekeeper, as far as I understand it to be. It's a clearinghouse. It does a number of things, and it handles and conducts monetary policy. The fact of the matter is that Congress is the only one capable of creating net financial assets.
Right.
Why? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I go to Giant Foods tomorrow and they give me $1 off coupon, they've just printed money, have they not? I mean, we're talking about money. These people have this fetish about money, and they don't realize the fact that a stamp is money. coupon is money.
Right.
Freaking baseball cards, if used for whatever, are money. They can't print U.S. dollars, though. And when a bank makes a loan, etc., they're not out there actually creating net financial assets. They are producing IOUs, debt denominated in dollars, but they're like Chase bucks turned into a dollar.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's a very good point. So the irony is when the Fed was doing all that, when they were buying all these treasuries and everybody, they're printing money, right? They were literally unprinting money, because when they took those trillions of dollars of 2.46 trillion, that's the number I know because I look at it every day.
Yes, you do.
2.46 trillion of treasuries, 1.77 trillion of mortgage-backed securities, so 4.5 trillion altogether. They took away the income that was generated by those assets. So, and you were able to see it very clearly if you looked at the charts. The interest income went way down. So they didn't print money. They unprinted the money. And they can't print money. Even if they wanted to, the only entity that can print money is the federal government. Because let me tell you something. Anyone who gets a Social Security check should understand this. Because when your Social Security check comes in the mail or when it's deposited directly in your bank account, guess what? You're $1,000 richer or $2,000 richer, and it comes with no offsetting liability. That's your money to go out and spend exactly as you want to spend it. Where did it come from? It came from thin air. Okay? But now you got $1,000 more. And you could do that for the roads. You could do that for the schools. You could do that for the health care. By the way, look at Trump. He wants to do infrastructure, but he's proposing this cockamamie public-private partnership. What the hell is that? Did Eisenhower, when he built the interstate highway system, did he say, let's do public-private partnership? If he did, we still would be building the damn interstate highway system. What he did was he deficit spent. Guess what? He did. And you know something? To this day, we are benefiting from that. Every single thing that you have on your body there right now, Steve, everything in your house right there, everything in that room came to you on a truck somewhere, which rolled on that interstate highway. And if we didn't have that deficit spend, guess what? It'd be probably still on its way to you. You never would have received it yet by now because it'd be on some dirt road somewhere. That's what you do. That's the way you do it.
As someone that looks around at the community, our group is sadly, woefully taken over largely by these conspiracy theorists that are they don't know anything about Forex, which is your friggin' specialty. They don't understand anything about, exchange rates and what like the petrodollar is. And they've got 1,000,001 fantasy land, lollipop stories that they tell each other. They'd rather sit there in Birkenstocks and an acoustic guitar telling stories about what the petrodollar is and the BRICS and Russia and China and Libya and the gold, the dinar and this and that. Please, can you help set the record straight about this whole concept of the BRICS are going to take over and the dollar's going to die and blah, blah, blah. Can you just attack that whole world reserve currency thing?
That's because we always move on to a new fear, right? It was like first, they're going to downgrade the credit rating and it's going to be the end of the world. When they downgraded it and nothing happened. Then the Fed's going to do quantitative easing and then we're going to have hyperinflation. And they did that and nothing happened, right? So there are these conspiracy theorists and these quacks, these kooks, they're looking for something else. So now it's going to be like the dollar's no longer going to be the global reserve currency. Let me tell you something. Yeah. If somebody, and that might happen too one day, but listen, Japan doesn't have the global reserve currency. It's a very wealthy country. Germany doesn't have a global reserve currency. It's a very wealthy country. I mean, we don't need to have it, but if it happens, I'll tell you this right now. It's not going to happen because the rest of the world gets together in some big conspiracy and gangs up on us and abandons the dollar. It's going to happen because we do it to ourselves, because we believe that we want to be like China. Like we want to work like slaves for low wages and build stuff that we need and then send them off to some foreign land for somebody else's currency. I mean, we got a great deal going on here where the Chinese, they work their butts off. They get paid slave wages. They send us TV sets and textiles and toys and all this freaking great stuff for really, really cheap. And we give them a little paper currency and they're totally happy with that. Look, there's only one way, and that some other country is going to supplant the United States dollar, with their currency. They're going to have to be willing to run perpetual trade deficits, because that's the only way the rest of the world will be able to acquire that other currency, right? I mean, here's the thing that's always stated the wrong way. It drives me crazy. You have these idiots, these quacks who are saying, we're profligate spenders, we're not disciplined. It's not like that at all. If we spend nothing, we would still have a trade deficit, because the rest of the world, in order for them to get dollars, which by the way, they not only like to have dollars, they need dollars because, for example, oil is bought and sold in dollars. Oil is priced in dollars. They literally have to sell us their output in order to acquire dollars to buy oil. So, I mean, even if we bought nothing from them, they would find a way. They would find a way to run a surplus with us just because they have to get the dollars to buy oil. So it's not, we shouldn't beat ourselves up and say, oh, we're profligate spenders and we're undisciplined and we're running deficits. No, it's them. It's the rest of the world that need the dollar for whatever reason. They also like to save in dollars because to them it's a stable currency. It's a good currency. There's a million reasons. But let me just say this. Even if it goes away, and I predict, I'll go on record, and just like I predicted that the credit was going to get downgraded, I'm predicting that we will lose the dollar as the global reserve, not because the rest of the world gangs up on us, because we do it to ourselves. But guess what? It won't mean anything. It'll change. In the course of that happening, the composition of our economy will change. In other words, we will work hard and build things and send those things away to foreigners, as opposed to us working a little bit less and getting those things from foreigners. All right, that's the only way. That's the only change you will see.
Okay? The Rothschilds don't own Japan. They don't own the UK. They don't own these things. It's stupid. Okay? Rich people exist. Hopefully we can make fewer of them and we can raise the bottom up. But the bottom line is that doesn't change the fact that our Congress created the Federal Reserve in 1913. Why is this such a big deal? I don't know. My life's exciting enough without creating more James Bond novels. Honest to God, sitting here in my driveway is a hell of a lot more exciting than crafting up some new thing about the banking cartels. Reality. The reason why the Federal Reserve was created is to facilitate clearing transactions. The Federal Reserve also has two mandates. One is price stability, and the other one is full employment, which it doesn't do a very good job at, does it? But those are the two things that it's supposed to do. So why in the world is it fashionable to talk about A, the national debt, B, reducing deficits, C, end the Fed, and on and on and on? Why is that? It's because we live in a country full of myths and legends. We don't have people actively fighting for economic truth and justice in America. And so as long as we're willing to eat these bullshit lies, the ones that have been pumped into us for 40 years, we're never ever going to see the kind of change that we could have. We're never ever going to see the kind of wonderful existence that we could have. Some of the other things that really, really get old after a while, right? People don't understand that MMT is not anti-Marx. MMT is not pro or against capitalism. MMT is not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's not green, it's nothing. It's just like, there's a tree over there. Shit. We'll call that tree MMT. Well, I don't like that tree. That tree doesn't exist. It has a fractional reserve tree system. I don't like that tree. I mean, that's how ridiculous these bozos get.
I'm going to bring this image up here on the screen, and I'll read it to you so that the crowd understands what we've got here. And this was one of my favorite posts you did.
Yeah, there it is.
You said the Clintons destroyed the Democratic Party. DESTOYED. Bill Clinton's embrace of balanced budgets and the selling of the concept to the Democratic establishment via his surrogates like Robert Rubin as some great good killed any chance for a progressive economic agenda forever. This is why the Dems are losing in every election. They cling pitifully to identity politics, which few people give a shit about, and which is a subject that is naturally very divisive.
Yes.
But that's all they got. Meanwhile, their traditional constituency, working people, are hurting badly, and they have nothing for them. Nothing.
Nothing.
Have said it better, man. That is spot on, Mike.
If I walked into a Democratic meeting here in New York City, and I can, I mean, I'm not wedded to the Republican Party. But if I walked into a meeting and started saying that stuff, and you would think from, the drubbing they've gotten over the years now, electorally, you would think they would, latch on to it, but no, they will shun these ideas. They will attack I just cannot understand it. I mean, this is the party of working people. It's the party of FDR that I spoke about earlier. They gave us the New Deal. They gave us Social Security. They're the ones who want to take away Social Security. I'm telling you, if Social Security goes away, it's going to be because of the Democrats, because they're going to be on board to do that. It's really, when I look at that, I just it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And Clinton, here we go again with the balanced budgets. We're still suffering from, you could see this. You could see it in the numbers when he balanced those budgets. Because what is it that the financial balance of the government is equal but opposite of the financial balance of the non-government. So if the government runs a deficit of whatever, 10 billion, then by definition, the financial balance of the non-government went up by 10 billion, right? Look, Steve, if I'm the government and you're, the guy, and I give you $10 out of my pocket, your balance went up $10. I have a deficit of $10 in my pocket, but let's say my pocket could just make money, okay? My pocket could just print money. I gave you $10, your balance went up. I have a deficit of 10, but it doesn't matter because I could just, make it again. So when they balance the budget, they're taking the $10 back out of your pocket. They're taking it away, and they're saying that's some kind of a good thing. That's a good thing. In the old days, when we were on a gold standard, yeah, the government had to do that because it needed gold. It had to get your money to buy the gold. But we're not, newsflash, everybody, we're not on the gold standard anymore. We went over that in 1971. And as a matter of fact, in the Depression, the United States was one of the last countries in the Depression to go off the gold standard. You could see every country that went off the gold standard, they came right out of the Depression. The United States waited to 1933 or 1934 to get off the gold standard. FDR, he made it illegal to own gold here in the United States. We were still on a gold standard internationally until 1971. But right after we went off the gold standard, boom, we came out of the Depression. And people still think, Alan Greenspan, when he was still Fed chairman, he was asked by Ron Paul, of all people, right, Mr. Goldbug, he was, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Yeah, it was Ron Paul. He said, do you think we should go back on the gold standard? And Greenspan said, no, I don't think that would be advisable. But anyway, we still act as if we are. He said it right there. We still act as if we are on a gold standard. which is absolutely true. This nonsense of we ran out of money, we got to bring down the debt. That's all tied into a gold standard type of monetary system or fixed exchange rate. We're on a floating exchange rate. All right, we went to the whole world went to a floating exchange rate pretty much back in the 70s. Why? Because it was better. It gives us autonomous monetary policy, supposedly autonomous. We don't do it like it's autonomous, but, it's like getting a car with a really big engine and then still thinking, you're driving a little Volkswagen or something like that. I mean, sorry, you got a 427 Hemi, use it. It's like, use it, man. Everybody's dying here except for a few people. I mean, you got the financial power to do whatever you want. Use it.
So what do you do with this? What do you do when they sit there and sideline an entire movement? You can't reason with them because they're not dealing in logic and facts. They're just dealing in their James Bond excitement. They got to create something to talk about. And this is a unification of the freaking, bored people of America unite. Hey man, my life sucks. Let's talk about the Rothschilds. I mean, that's exactly what we've got here. And when you realize that economics is no joke, that economics is literally how we get resources around to people. And that's how we eat. That's how we get health care. That's how we take care of our homes. That's how we take care of everything. Okay? It's not that the money is the problem. It's the fair allocation of that money. And since our government creates it out of thin air, don't you think it's about time that we, the people, stood up united and fought back and said, you're going to take care of us? Don't you think it's time that we stopped allowing people to sideline us with nonsense and gibberish? Don't you think it's about time we had health care as a right? Don't you think it's about time we had college as a right? Don't you think it's about time that we had a federal job guarantee as a right? Aren't you tired of your kids doing without because of some false scarcity that some dweeb, some neo-maxi Zune dweeby decided that we all had to suffer from? I know I do. I know I'm done with it. I know I've got no more room or patience for people that come in and talk like they know what they're talking about, but really don't know what they're talking about, and really end up causing pain and suffering for untold thousands, if not millions. I find it to be murderous. Anyway, I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.